Thank you for joining us on Aximine Media Network. My name is Alula Wune. I am your host of Tigray, our weekly program where we'll be covering the many up-to-date reports of what's occurring on the grounds in Tigray, northern region of Ethiopia, or the many infrastructures, networks, foundations, and large organizations of that Tagaru diaspora are doing all over the world. Today, unfortunately, we are on day 249 of genocide, subjugation, devastation on the people of Tigray at the hands of fascist government of Ethiopia, fascist government of Eritrea, and many other, forces within the country and outside of the country contributing to this man-made famine and genocide on the people of Tigray. As I stated, over 8 months is a long time for, basic resources and tools to be held from the people. And for it to be entirely man-made is extremely saddening, and something we've covered on our program weekly, and it's something we will continue to shed light on, as it is the duty of Tigray diaspora, and also the duty of all righteous and good people to speak up on their behalf. So today we'll be covering up-to-date reporting in terms of what is the current state of Ethiopia, what is the current state of Tigray itself, especially regarding the starvation, man-made famine at the hands of fascist Abiy Ahmed, illegitimate leader of Ethiopia. And this first article is something from the another news outlet that we have, used in the past due to the fact that they have verified sources, verified information. These aren't stories just created based on opinion. And not that there's anything wrong with opinion, but there's a constant doubt on the information that Tagaru diaspora are providing. There's constant questioning of what are the motives? Is this, a biased propaganda, paid form of information, when in fact, really what we've been doing is showing you the information on the ground, what's occurring, what the people are suffering through, these kind of things. And this first article will show you exactly that, because as of late, they've announced that there is a ceasefire in the region. At least the Ethiopian government has announced a unilateral ceasefire, but this unilateral ceasefire, which we covered previously, is more of a tactic of defense, more of a tactic of, being ousted from the Tigray region, the capital, and essentially covering themselves as they run. They announced that it's a unilateral ceasefire, when in fact, they are still imposing their will on the people of Tigray by purposely starving them, by purposely limiting all aid into the region. And this unilateral ceasefire has proven to be nothing more than just what we've seen over the last 8-9 months of lies and propaganda. So as you'll see here, the title states, Ethiopia says 8 flights to Tigray allowed, but none has yet left the capital. So one of the things you may be familiar with is the Tigray elected regional government has announced that they're willing to participate in a ceasefire once the certain terms are met. And one of the terms is direct flights to Tigray. This is regarding flights that go through Addis Ababa, the capital of Ethiopia, nonetheless. Ethiopia said on Wednesday that it had allowed humanitarian flights to its northern Tigray region this week, amid concerns that aid is not reaching people facing famine, but the civil aviation head said no such flights had left the capital. Ethiopia's government, it continues, has been battling TPLF, but really TDF, the Tigray regional government, and many people and civilians have been killed during this time, which is a fact. And it touches on that unilateral humanitarian ceasefire that they announced. But since July 5th, it quotes, the federal government has granted the flight permission to all interested parties to provide humanitarian services in Tigray region. And unfortunately, that is not what's occurring. The people of Tigray are still having aid withheld from them due to many factors. One thing which we covered last week, the purposeful blowing up of bridges that lead out of the region. One specifically that leads from the Amhara region, which is the region that has deployed its militia into the western portions of Tigray to essentially take land from the Tigray region due to many factors, one of which they claim is rightfully theirs. But everyone knows you cannot just strong arm your way into a region like that and then push thousands and millions of people out of their homes. But nonetheless, one bridge, Takaza Bridge, that leads into Tigray, specifically the one that's been providing a lot of aid to the Shire region of Tigray, which is one town in Tigray, was blown up. And obviously, in the aftermath of this humanitarian ceasefire, which they're claiming it is, that would not be your objective, to limit aid coming to the region. But that's in fact what they're doing. Nonetheless, anyway, the Director General of the Ethiopian Civil Aviation Authority says, said no such flights had taken off from Addis Ababa. It has to be processed by the Minister of Foreign Affairs and then has to come to us. So far, we have received nothing from the MFA. And no flight has departed from Addis Ababa to Mekelle. If there were any, I would know. This is one of Abiy Ahmed's, essentially puppets, one of his workers, somebody who he can control. And he's even telling you, we haven't allowed one flight to leave. And we know for a fact no direct flights, as of now, have been allowed to go into Tigray, directly into Mekelle or Shire or Aksum or wherever. So that means essentially humanitarian aid into the region is very minimal, which is not what most people would assume a humanitarian ceasefire would be intending to do. But that's not, in fact, as I stated, really what they're trying to accomplish here. Continues that the OCHA, Humanitarian Agency for the UN, says no flights yet have been able to travel directly from Addis Ababa to Mekelle or the northern town of Shire, as I stated. However, we are following up with all relevant actors to ensure that direct flights are able to operate as soon as possible in light of this announcement. The United Nations said on Friday, things that we have covered, statistics we have covered, that food shortages had worsened dramatically over the past 2 weeks, and some 400,000 people in Tigray are now estimated to be in famine, with another 1.8 million on the brink of famine. That line right there is telling. This fascist government of Ethiopia has created another storyline, chance to subvert pressure that's applied onto them. When they lose Mekelle, when they lose large portions of Tigray, a lot of their soldiers are prisoners of war or dying or running away. He states, no, we're not losing. We're in fact trying to help the people of Tigray. For months, we've reported on what the actual things Abiy Ahmed has said, legitimate fascist leader. He stated his own words, the people of Tigray are not starving. Over 70% are planting their crops. This is a month ago. Has he found new information? I don't think so. It's proof. There's lies that he's feeding to the public, to his own citizens, because as he continues to starve his own citizens in an effort to fight one political party he claims is the enemy, that is a terrorist organization, he claims that the only people they are fighting, they are raping, they are looting, they are starving the people of Tigray on purpose. This is a man-made famine at the hands of fascist Abiy Ahmed. Over 400,000 people are now estimated to be in famine. Estimated, cannot confirm because we're still on a telecommunications blackout in the region. If you are trying to work in the direction of helping the people of Tigray, you would not attack humanitarian agencies on the way out. It was documented by various news outlets on what they have done. And on the Twitter feed that we saw last week, I covered the head of United Nations Children organization in terms of UNICEF, who basically helps children in need all over the world during times of crisis, provided proof. They're telling you that they saw, again, witness testimony. They know who attacked them and destroyed their satellite equipment. These aren't guns. This is equipment to communicate and distribute aid. It's deliberate what they're doing to the people of Tigray. We cannot close our eyes. The evidence is in front of us. Continues. Also on Friday, the government denied blocking humanitarian aid to Tigray and said it was rebuilding infrastructure amid accusations it is using hunger as a weapon. What infrastructure is being rebuilt into the region? No one can tell you, because bombing of bridges and blocking of roads leading outside of Tigray is not an infrastructure project. Continues, pressure is building on both sides to end hostilities so that aid can reach the starving. The commander of the Tigrayan forces on Tuesday called for a negotiated ceasefire with the government and a political solution, saying the government could not win the war. This is proof of what we're talking about. The Ethiopian government refuses to act behind its words constantly. This is the current state of Tigray. So, we're going to continue and cover other articles, but please share this information. Please allow the youth all over the world, whether they be specifically Tagaro, yes, we need them to see what's happening to their people. We need them to spread the word as well, though, to people who have compassion, people who have, empathy for those who are being deliberately starved on the grounds of Tigray, civilians. We've provided proof, endless proof. The genocide apologists will constantly state that you have not provided them with enough evidence, but the proof is in the fruit of Abiy Ahmed, fascist, Isaias Afwerki, warlord, fascist work. They've worked hard endlessly to starve the people of Tigray, and they constantly lie and provide, just contradictory statements regarding whether Eritrean soldiers are in fact in Tigray, when they are going to leave, have they been blocking aid, whether the federal forces are in fact guilty of rape, which we have hundreds of witness testimony stating that women of Tigray who have shown evidence, proof that they've been raped, witness testimony as well by these federal forces, by these Eritrean soldiers, the Amhara militias guilty as well of blocking aid and various other crimes, burning of crops, looting. Some genocide apologists will continuously tell you, we're looking for proof, but when your eyes are closed, what proof can we show you? The people are screaming. Their voices have not been heard as much as it will once telecommunication is returned, because we are enduring a blackout. No phone lines, no internet. Electricity is sparse throughout the region. There's very little electricity. Only some has returned as of late. What is the federal government of Ethiopia doing? This is called an infrastructure project. Our next article is the EU Observer, and it discusses exactly what we're talking about. Ethiopia creating famine in Tigray, EU warns. EU Crisis Management Commissioner is the man you will see in this picture right here. It's an article on July 7th published, and states Ethiopia's siege, which it is, on its restive Tigray region is creating a man-made famine, the EU Commission has warned. This is not a ceasefire. It's a siege, and starvation is being used as a weapon of war. Famine is now a reality in Tigray for estimated 900,000 people, and another 1 million people are just one step away. Look at these numbers that we're seeing. They're growing by the day. This famine is entirely man-made and is a disgrace to those who are responsible for it, he added. This is exactly what we've been talking about. The true crimes against humanity. Deliberate, systematic starvation of the people of Tigray. The article continues, the siege, what they're calling, has seen Ethiopia close Tigray's borders, ban flights, destroy road and rail infrastructure, cut telecommunications, and prevent the entry of international aid workers. Atrocities such as systematic rape, extrajudicial killings were also being seen in the conflict in what may amount to war crimes and crimes against humanity. Sadly, this is part and parcel of what we've been talking about, what we've been covering over these 9 months, essentially, 249 days of deliberate genocide, starvation on the people of Tigray. It continues and it states that Slovenia's foreign minister on Tuesday stated the fighting was now reduced in intensity, probably as an indication that the EDF, Ethiopian Defense Force, has withdrawn from most parts of the region, but was putting up little resistance. Allied Eritrean forces had also retreated to border regions in the north of Tigray, while the government-allied Amhara militia had retreated to western areas. But after 8 months of war, 91% of the population was in need of urgent assistance, he estimated. Speaking on behalf of Slovenia's EU presidency, we urgently need a full ceasefire by all parties. The EU, it continues about how the EU, which we've talked about, suspended direct budgetary aid to Ethiopia and threatened to blacklist officials who obstructed aid workers. And it also said that it was also spending some 118 million euros on refugees who had crossed the border into neighboring South Sudan. And it has twice sent a special envoy to try to broker peace talks and humanitarian access, but his visits have given little cause for hope. When I met with Ethiopian leadership, he states, in February, which many of you may have seen our coverage on, they really used this kind of language that they were going to destroy the Tigrayans, that they are going to wipe out the Tagaru for 100 years. On June 18th, he stated this, something we've covered previously. He continues, I think that's very obvious, and now we have to react because it looks for us like ethnic cleansing. It is a very, very serious act if this is true. And of course, Ethiopia's foreign ministry said it was a hallucination of sorts or a lapse in memory of some kind. It's clear what the Ethiopian government's role and goal in all of this is. They're deliberately starving the people currently. Previous to getting ousted out of Mekelle and various parts of Tigray, they were purposely blocking aid towards areas where they did not deem aid was allowed to go. The Eritrean soldiers and Amhara militias were also burning crops and blocking aid themselves as well, and also attacking humanitarian aid workers, which we've covered as well previously. So the current state of Tigray currently is one of devastation, as it has been. The Ethiopian government, as I stated, is trying to create a narrative, play a game of politics and propaganda during a time of, dire circumstances for their own citizens. Starvation, famine means death at the hands of fascist leaders. It's a travesty. And rather than actually trying to achieve some type of humanitarian ceasefire, not anything else, but humanitarian, They're playing games, stating they did not lose McCullough. They did not, in fact, um, suffer defeats. They gave up. The evidence is everywhere. Ethiopian federal soldiers documented marching towards Mekelle, as you'll see here. Mekelle, capital of Tigray, if you're not familiar. Genocide apologists have stated these are just Tagaru farmers dressed up in federal uniforms. Their faces are here. We know who they are. These are the rapists, the killers, the blockers of aid, walking. Shame. It's shameful that they march towards Mekelle, and that Abiy Ahmed denies they are even in Tigray. He stated various times the prisoner of war numbers announced been exaggerated. There's not that many. We've shown you the pictures. They're here. These are all documented. These are not Photoshop. This is a organization, news outlet that's gotten photographical proof, satellite imagery to corroborate where this is. Look at these faces. These aren't Tagaru farmers sitting in fake uniforms, acting in the midst of a famine and a war. They don't have time to play such games. They have to find food and avoid being raped and killed during this genocide. This is the face of the people who are destroying Tigray and claiming they're not even there, or if they're there, they're conducting in a civilized manner. It's a shame. And it's a deliberate what they are trying to achieve. They don't have an interest in what they're claiming that, oh, well, we did all of this to help the people of Tigray, farmers of Tigray. 2 months ago, they stated 70% of the population was planting crops of Tigray. Farmers are planting crops. There's a rainy season approaching. There's no famine in Tigray. Abiy Ahmed, during his fake fraudulent election, stated what? There's no famine, there's no starvation, no humanitarian crisis. We have a small problem in Tigray, and I will solve it. Eritrean soldiers, I will not push out of the region, because God knows why you would allow a foreign entity to come into your country and rape and pillage your citizens. But they are not the only problem, he stated. We have Sudan on our land as well. This man is delusional and does not understand the concept of humanitarian assistance and the concept of being a decent human being. People are dying daily. So what is the goal of this ceasefire? What is the goal of all of this? If in fact the Ethiopian government is not in Mekelle and is slowly getting pushed out of all regions of Tigray, what are they trying to accomplish right now? It's clear. While these prisoners of war are starving in Tigray, which something we covered last week, tells you the work that they were leading into currently. What they want to do is starve the people of Tigray by locking it, creating it into a cage, if you will now. Because without their soldiers being in many parts of Tigray, they don't have to worry about prisoners of war or them getting slaughtered by the masses. Instead, they can focus all their attention on starving Tigray, blocking every road leading into the region, bombing every bridge leading out of the region. No planes are going into the region. How can the people eat and receive humanitarian aid in the midst of this crisis that you've created, a man-made famine? That's exactly what he's trying to do. And something we covered last week, MSF, the Doctors Without Borders organization, they lost 3 of their workers last week, humanitarian aid workers, something that the Ethiopian government has tried to deflect and push blame on, when in fact, the true perpetrators is the federal soldiers, Eritrean soldiers, aligned together. They're the ones who've been committing these atrocities throughout this time. A large portion, if not 95% of them. So when we talked about a few weeks ago, The three, actually, I believe it was a couple of weeks ago, three staff members in Tigray were killed. There's an update that the MSF has posted stating, following the brutal murders of three of its staff in the Ethiopian region of Tigray on June 24th, MSF is demanding that local parties to the conflict carry out immediate investigations into the killings. Without assurances that MSF's medical work can be carried out safely, the International Medical Humanitarian Organization has suspended its activities in Abiy Adi, Adigrat, and Aksum in central and eastern Tigray, but will continue to provide assistance to people in other areas of Tigray. Almost 2 weeks since the murder of our colleagues, they continue. No one has claimed responsibility, and the circumstances around their deaths remain unclear. MSF Operations Director stated. This is why she states they're requesting immediate investigation, and at this terrible time, we have made the extremely painful but necessary decision to suspend our activities in several areas of Tigray. One more time to specify who suffered, paid the ultimate price, their lives, for trying to help civilians of Tigray. Maria Hernandez, not born in Ethiopia, not born in Tigray, worked for the organization simply to help others. Tedros Mariam and Johannes Halafon, both of them Tagaru Ethiopian, but Tagaru specifically, who wanted to help their people during a genocide, during a time where hospitals have been bombed, burned, and looted. It states all three staff were wearing clothing that identified them as MSF and clearly traveling in a clearly marked MSF vehicle. They had been working in the area since February 2021 and engaged exclusively in medical and humanitarian activities in alignment with international humanitarian law and dialogue with all parties. It's clear what the goal of this operation was. As I stated, the killing of these humanitarian workers has resulted in suspension of activities in where? Abiy Adi, Adigrat, and Aksum. During a famine, during a time of mass rapes, extrajudicial killings by large numbers, people are suffering enough. And this action was clear in what they're intending to do. Purposely kill humanitarian workers so that when we draw out the region and there is limited aid, there's going to be limited doctors available as well. This organization helps those during a time when hospitals are beyond hard to reach, because even if you can get to there, they may not have the supplies to save your life because of the Eritrean soldiers, Amhara militias, and federal forces of Ethiopia that have continuously for 9 months bombarded these hospitals with either looting every large piece of equipment, small piece of equipment, every piece of medicine, every piece of technology, or chastising and attacking doctors and nurses in the hospitals and victims in the hospitals. This has happened over a 9-month period. So coincidentally, right before they decide to withdraw from Tigray, what do? Kill doctors, humanitarian workers, two Tagaru nationals and one woman, Maria Hernandez, who is not from the region. But Tedros and Johannes Tagaru themselves serving their people during a time when they're facing mass looting, mass starvation, rape, pillaging, bombing of highly populated areas. And right before they move out from the region, they're killed on the side of the road. The organization themselves has told us they were in clearly marked clothes, clearly marked vehicle, and engaged only in humanitarian work. We've reported 2 weeks before, this killing. Abiy Ahmed, the government in Addis Ababa, illegitimate government, by the way, stated what? Humanitarian workers are helping the junta. That's what they stated, the terrorists. This is their mindset. Yet, when humanitarian workers are killed 2 weeks before they leave Tigray, or most of Tigray, specifically Mekelle, humanitarian workers are killed. There's an investigation that's being demanded by MSF, rightfully so, because their humanitarian workers shouldn't be involved in a war. But the Ethiopian government is not going to give you an investigation. They're in telecommunications propaganda war currently. It's evident what their plan is. Leave the people of Tigray, as they've done many, many cities after a battle. They lose a battle in Aksum, they lose a battle in Adigrat or in Abiy Adi or in Shire or in Eragat Hamuse. They lose any battle. What do? Take it out on the citizens of the town. Kill them, attack them, rape them, burn their stuff, steal their stuff. This is what they're doing. It's systematic to try to devastate the people of Tigray. Plenty of evidence we've showcased to back all of what I've just said over the past 9 months of episodes that we've conducted. Articles with certified witness testimony, satellite imagery to corroborate what's occurred on the grounds. You cannot convince a genocide apologist otherwise. So let's continue to spread the word to Tagaru, to people who have, as I stated earlier, empathy and sympathy for people who are suffering. Civilians. This is, as stated many a times, there's a war occurring between TDF facing large odds against multiple other parties, multiple advanced weaponry against them, droning and highly effective air warfare. But this is not what we're discussing. This is not about the military side of this. Civilians on the ground have suffered for 249 days ongoing. Genocide, rape, humanitarian war crimes are occurring. The people of Tigray need people to speak up for them, whether you're Tagaru or not. If you have, as I stated, an objective eye for information, you can clearly see people are starving and people are being raped and people are endlessly suffering. The Ethiopian government's role in this is clear, as we've talked about today. They're killing humanitarian workers in an effort to leave the Tigray region and isolate it in a cage. They've blocked aid for a reason. So there's nothing for the region to have during this unilateral ceasefire. But yet when the opposing side comes and says, we need to have a ceasefire, a multilateral, cohesive ceasefire where multiple sides can agree on certain things, what do you hear from the Ethiopian government? Silence. Eritrean soldiers are still in Tigray. What kind of ceasefire is this? Amhara militia are in western Tigray still, in portions of Tigray, claiming the cities are theirs. Walqait, Humara. This is a ceasefire. This is political game to hold off the pressure again. More lies, like when they told you Eritrean soldiers are going to leave the region, and then they told you maybe. Just like when they told you 2 months before that they weren't even in the region. And if they were in the region, you deserve it. Please share this information with, as I stated, the youth all around the world, because we have to be a continuous voice. The federal forces have left Mekelle, but they are still devastating. They are still looting the people of Tigray. I stated previously, I'll state it again, and we're going to continue to speak. This is 249 days of suffering, telecommunication blackout, rape, looting. Telecommunication blackout is the start of it. There's no access to banking, no access to hospitals, minimal things. We're in the midst of a pandemic, COVID-19 all over the world. People of Tigray haven't been able to have basic needs met. And they're continuing to play games and tell you, we're on a humanitarian ceasefire. They're in a humanitarian blockade. Evidence is there. European Union, pardon me, has corroborated. They believe the same thing. The strategy is being employed is clear as day by Abiy Ahmed. Block the borders, allow no flights. His own person has admitted that there is no flights into Mekelle. So there's no flights. But they blew up bridges. It means there's no access to the other regions. At least none that's being utilized. Eritrean Amhara militia, as I stated, is still in the country, so there's no ceasefire of shooting. So what's occurring? Starvation, genocide. People in Alamata, in Tigray, are being killed by the hundreds currently. This is not a ceasefire. It's purposeful. Lie to the international community, continue our same plan. Isaias Afwerki, fascist, warlord, warmonger. He's been silent for a reason. He operates in the darkness, kills, drinks the blood of children while the people of Tigray suffer. He stays silent. I ask you one more time, please share this information. Continue to spread the word that this is an ongoing situation. We cannot rest until all foreign entities have left Tigray and humanitarian access is granted to every city, to every countryside part of Tigray. All Hagar all Sev Al Katama, everyone gets humanitarian access. All infrastructures, hospitals, banks, schools, everything has been looted and burned, destroyed. There's a devastation in the region. They need this access, not today, not tomorrow, but yesterday. If we do not act, continue to spread the word, continue to donate, but really spread the word so everyone in the world knows the people of Tigray, one of the oldest civilizations, the people from Aksumite civilization, the kids of Ras Alad, Atsi Yohannes, are being starved intentionally. And we will not rest until the fascists have left Tigray, until the people of Tigray have gotten their aid. I thank you for watching us on the 249th day of genocide and war crimes being attributed onto the people of Tigray. Until we meet again, I hope you continue to spread the word and support the people of Tigray by giving them your voice through social media activism, and also in terms of protesting and all forms of donating to the people of Tigray. Thank you.
نحنا حزب تግራይ خنورق تفتنا ኢና لومين السعر صباحين السعر لومين نبركخ صباحين نبركخ أهداو سرعتس أي جزءنا نحرحج أهداو سرعت كنا طفء أي حتى سلمتنا سوينا إن بعد زيوم قمنا حلو لو 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 نالو نقعد عيننا نمعبه كم يقرنا نهداو سرعت حجين مركخل لومين نبركخ صباحين نبركخ